How about now? It might have just been quiet.
Well, now I'm not seeing your screen at all. Hold on.
Yeah. You have to click and do it again because Discord's weird. Look at the Notion expert. Oh my god.
They have no idea how
I don't remember if I've
heartless
shown
I
you
am.
that VOD tracker or not.
I think you showed me some bits of it, but this is nice. You can tag it immediately.
They have no
I need to get
idea
into
how
Notion.
heartless I
This might be a better way for me to keep track of notes instead of using Google Docs.
Oh, it's nice. I love Notion.
You're a power user. Do you have audio, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Let me start Let's Stream. Is this session 7?
Yes.
Perfect.
Path number 1, Notion Glazer.
Did you just learn it yourself, like through videos, or?
Yeah, but I've been a Notion user since I think like 2018 or 2019, whenever it first came out. I was really on top of the ball.
What'd you use before?
Probably just Google Docs and stuff.
I gotcha. That's cool. That's cool. I dabbled a little bit in Obsidian, which isn't exactly the same, but
Obsidian
I've heard...
scares me. It looks so confusing.
Yeah, I was trying to use it to create like a vault of sorts of clips. Actually, I have a version that's like very old. Hold on. I got it through like one day of using it, but I just like that I could search for stuff. Like if I typed in stuff like that, but I think Notion might be better. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, I mean, it's been a little bit, kind of. It feels like it's been a while, but it's actually not been that too long since the last one. But for me, I definitely have a bias towards mechanics. You voiced over DMs, maybe it would be good to look a little bit over the game sense decision-making stuff. I think we could definitely take a look at both today and kind of treat it more of like a where are we at in terms of the decision-making stuff, looking for patterns, and then mechanically if there's any patterns coming up, kind of just taking a little bit more of a holistic view at it, and then going from there. So taking a look at this Haven game might be a good starting point. It's a close game, 13-10. We're playing the Reyna, which obviously is ideal for mechanics. So that's kind of what I wanted to do today in terms of that side of things. But did you have anything, I guess, off the top of your mind that you wanted to discuss?
Let's see. I might have to refresh myself on when we start the VOD because it's been a while since this game. But yeah, I've been on kind of a losing streak, which is why I messaged you about the like playbook kind of stuff. I'm like, at a certain point, I got to the brink of going back down to Iron 3, and it was so demotivating. I was like, I feel like there's something else that I have to be missing. Like, I'm dying a lot more than my teammates. Even if I'm getting a lot of kills, I'm still dying a lot. So, like, maybe there's something else that I need to work on. Like, the common angles stuff that we started looking at, I was like, okay, that makes sense. Maybe we can start work there or, like, try to focus on other things. But very difficult to juggle if I'm doing mechanics in the meantime.
Yeah, for sure. Valorant's one of those games that I feel like if you don't have like all of the pieces, you try to learn one thing, but then you get stopped by another thing. It is very hard, I think, from the new player experience. I had a very similar roadblock when I first started learning CS. Like the first 200 hours were terrible. And after like I kind of got into the game, I told everyone else that was like I was trying to convince to play the game, like my brother or my cousins. I was like, the first 200 hours are going to be terrible. And I think that learning hump might be similar in Valorant. I'm not exactly sure what the time frame is, but yeah, it is tough. So I'll do my best to try and take a look at what we're maybe could address next. Of course, mechanics is one of the main things, but it is hard to apply mechanics if you don't have a little base game sense behind it. So I think for specifically the deaths, this will be a great game to look at because we died every single round, which is actually perfect. So you're doing exactly what I want you to do to take more gun duels. But the grain of salt that goes with that is, we might be taking unnecessary risks that could cause us to lose more games, which is also explaining potentially why we're deranking a little bit. My initial goal with trying to do that mechanics approach is essentially trying to brute force our way to learn better fights and win more fights to try to get to silver. I think with enough time that may be possible, but it's always good to rethink approaches with different clients and stuff like that. So I'll try and look at this VOD in particular with a bit more of a fresh mind, and not, I guess, trying to place too much of my lofty goals on trying to become a mechanical demon in the low ranks. So
okay,
that is good feedback, though. Let's take a look here.
I was literally just thinking that though.
Okay, so let's see. B start, C start. Okay, so starting position is probably going to be one of the biggest things you can get ROI from, because based on where you start, all your options are dictated off of that. So this would probably be the easiest thing to adjust. I think we might have touched on it very briefly, and you do a really good job of tuning into the sessions in the dojo. But for those unfamiliar and also more of us a refresher, I'm going to introduce this concept, the 80-20 rule here. Do you remember anything about this rule at all for defense?
From the thing that you sent me last time?
Yeah. It's okay if you don't.
Well, I do know it kind of, when I read it, it reminded me of the general 80-20 rule, which is like 80% of the decision, or 20% of the decision is going to make up 80% of the result or something like that.
Right. Okay. So basically that is how I like to frame defense. So basically your starting position, if you can kind of be somewhere in the middle of the map playing fast rotate, you get like 80% of the impact you could probably that you can possibly achieve on defense by just sitting somewhere here. And the reason being, the logic behind it, is you get to basically fast rotate to both sides of the map, or if they go into your side of the map, B, you're there. So your chances of actually getting a gun duel before the bomb goes down is very high. Which, if you recall, way back when you're playing that deadlock game, that's kind of what I had you do. And you were able to kind of rotate into A before the bomb was down. So the 80-20 rule basically states that you play somewhere in the middle of the map, playing fast rotate 80% of the time. So if I do fast rotate, there's obviously nuance to add to this, but as a general base, you play fast rotate 80% of the time, and then you play like extremity / anchor. I'll just put anchor for this, 20% of the time. So in this example here, when I see you on C site, my first thought is you are playing extremity, which is on the 20%. Now the argument to that, which I'm gonna go ahead and load up into Valorant while I'm speaking, but you could argue that you could play for info on the extremity and then fast rotate if they aren't there, which you can kind of get a little bit of both, which is true. If you're playing an agent like Yoru, like you have here, or if you're playing an agent like Neon, you're able to contest the extremity, so in this case A or C site, and then fast rotate because you have the TP, or you can pull out your ability to move super quickly. As an agent like Reyna, if you start C and they go A, your rotate's probably going to take like roughly 15 seconds. We could actually time it, but most of the time you won't actually get onto the A site before the bomb is down. Like the actual site hold itself is going to be over, and you're going to rotate into spawn. Like let's just say you make it to here. There's going to be smokes here. They're probably going to be on site already, and your teammates are already going to be dead. So you can't actually influence that site hold. So the only actually fast rotate you can do from C is to get onto B site. Which is still pretty good. You're able to play for the C hold and the B hold if you start C, but that only accounts for 2 out of 3 of the bomb sites. Whereas if you start on B, you get to play for ideally 100% of the site holds. The caveat to this is if they throw a fake. So if we over rotate from B to A, which let me mute my game sound really quickly. this thing is being loud. Okay, let's go back. And where did my drawings go? Okay, so if you over rotate from B to A, let me get rid of a little bit of this. So let's just say you're Tejo right now. You over rotate from B to A because they make A pressure. There's some enemies here. And then they end up just going C after. Now you're forced to play a C retake. So I like to think about macro kind of like rock, paper, scissors. If they're fast rushing, you play fast rotate, hard counter. If they're faking, then you anchor, which is this 20% here. And if they're defaulting, you kind of just contest space to fight into them, which is kind of more of a neutral thing that I don't include in this 80-20. But most of the time, I'm not sure if this is true in your rank, but most of the time enemy teams will rush, which means most of the time we should be fast rotating. So that's kind of how I think about that framework. Before I move on, does all of that make sense so far? Do you have any questions?
There were a lot of little tidbits that you mentioned that I would like to write down, but maybe I'll just revisit that in the VOD.
Sure. We can definitely go on some tangents though if you'd like. But in terms of going all the way back to what I said, starting position is probably the most important thing you can pay attention to on defense. On attack, it still matters, but as an attacker, you dictate the pace of the round. So as long as your teammates aren't rushing when you're lurking, it doesn't really matter as much.
So in this instance, when no one was on C, so that's why I go on C. Like, what should I do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Logically speaking, filling in the gap here makes a ton of sense. The problem is, there's a few, but in short, the answer I would tell most people is to just play B anyways and follow your original thesis in terms of starting position or whatever you want to play, regardless of if there is a gap. Okay. Because it isn't our job to fill in the gap, especially if you're playing duelist. Now, if you're playing like a more supportive role, like you're playing a sentinel, that their whole job is to fill in gaps with either the util or themselves, that might be a different argument. But even then, most of the time when I work with sentinel players, I tell them to do something else. So yeah, in short, don't fill in the gap, just play B, and that will double up with actually playing with your teammate. So a lot of the time, if you just leave the gap, it means that you have numbers strong side elsewhere, which means you can typically play that side of the map more aggressively. So in this case here, let's just say like C is open, you have the Tejo with you, and if you're not alone, you might feel a little bit more confident to, instead of holding window here, you actually might be able to walk down mid because you have a teammate helping you. Whereas if you're doing this alone and you had a C player, you might feel a little bit too scared to actually commit to the B walk, which I like to do even alone, but you get punished a lot more because if they swing window while you're looking here, you might die. So in short, follow your own plan, your own starting position, and trust your own reads. That is very important to do on defense, regardless if you're overstacked there, or if your teammates are playing there, or even if your teammate asks you to go play the other bomb site. Sometimes I'll just ignore them and play my own bomb site, unless I have a read that they're going to crash out on me, and then I'll go and fill in the gap. But yeah, it's really important that you just trust your own starting position. So what you'll notice is they probably won't go C, because most people don't go C on pistol unless they do a C split, which will probably force us into a retake. Or you're playing the site hold alone, which is also another downside of filling in the gap. You'll almost always be alone. So let's just say they do come C, or they do come into a C split. This Tejo is probably not going to rotate quick enough. And then you have 3 A players, which means if you decide to play for the site hold, you're going to get run over. And if you don't play for the site hold, you're going to have to play for the retake, which means we should have probably started somewhere else anyways, because we would have been playing retake anyways. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of the TLDR on starting positions. Not much of a TLDR, but I do like the aggro push. So there's a couple things here. We kind of did it off rip, but I like the aggression. I got you. That's good. That is good. Generally, you don't want to do a full push until info is spotted somewhere. So if you look at the minimap really quickly, there's been 4 seconds. We don't see anything C, we don't see anything window, and we don't see anything A. As a duelist player, it's good to fast flank and fast rotate, but to make the decision more consistent, you would do it if there is what I like to call sign of life. So if I'm playing B right now, I wouldn't rotate until there's the first sign of life. Like I would stay looking out window until there's A noise or there's C noise. In this case here, if I'm playing C, like as you are now, I probably would just hold the C line until info is spotted on A or until I've seen util or heard util thrown from them. Now that isn't actually what I do in game because I kind of have like if I don't see anything C, I'm probably going to rotate anyways. But like that's the more correct way to play the game is you make your rotates based on a reaction. So like they do something, then you react. That's kind of the name of the game on defense.
Okay.
Unless you're like immediately being proactive to fight space, which is what they're doing on A. But hopefully I'm not confusing you too much. Basically, if you're playing and they haven't made any noise yet, you typically just hold your position.
Okay.
In which case we do end up pushing up and we guessed correctly because they aren't here. But you can imagine if they showed 2 seconds later and they're on C, you probably get destroyed just because we're kind of stuck in the corridor here.
It's interesting because I think like even in my like a recent game, I was thinking in my head, maybe it's smart to go C on pistol because I think I just trust my aim a little bit more with the smaller guns and I don't trust their aim. So I'm like, okay, maybe my odds are a little better. So
right.
I don't know. But it's interesting that you say that's actually not likely.
So it's more so about the distance, I think. Like if you go C long as an attacker, I never paused. You go C long as an attacker, like this is a really long range fight, which also means it's going to be a long range fight for defenders.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to close this gap, which is going to take a while. So when people have worse guns, they tend to try to close the gap from garage instead, so that when you exit this choke, you'll just be naturally closer.
Okay.
So that's kind of the thought process. It definitely depends on your pistol buy. Like if I'm going C long with the classic, I might have found a better fight in garage because of the right clicks. Whereas if I'm going C long with a ghost or a sheriff, it's probably completely reasonable.
Okay.
So that's definitely the thought process. Let's see what ended up happening here. So we push up. Looks like there's a chamber here. We peek some of these angles. We're getting the orb. Okay. And wow, there's a lurker. That is insane. Okay, so what did we learn? We learned that there's 2A, there was a chamber here, and then there was a phoenix here.
Yeah, as soon as I saw noise, I thought it was safe to take the orb, but I got punished.
Yeah, so this punish here that happened, they're doing a 2-1-1, which basically is a default. Likely it's going to be 3 towards A, if this is actually correct. The problem is we're in low elo and no one knows what's going on. So this guy here probably has no concept of a default, and he just saw a gap on the map and went towards C and sat in a corner. Okay, so as you progress the ladder, this play would be considered by the Phoenix terrible, unless it was an active fake. In our elo, it's probably one of those things that's just going to happen, which means that the whole pretty much everything that I just said up to this point with the rotates and decision making applies much less because no one knows what's going on.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for us as a takeaway? It probably means that we just have to assume most corners have a player in there until you see everyone on the minimap. So minimap awareness is going to help a little bit. Let's go back really quickly. 2 spot on minimap, looks like it's the Fade Omen. And then as we push up here, we see Chamber. Okay, so what does that mean? That means we're looking for Reyna and Phoenix. This is probably the way that you're going to get around the lack of game sense in the game, I guess, by just keeping track of players here. Which, if I was in your shoes here, I would 100% get the orb, or I would probably be knife out flanking right now. Like, I would also die to this player. The thing to know from this point on is adapting, right? So going back to the 80-20, if you're to fast rotate or fast flank, because the read was that they were going A because that was first sign of life, and then you get punished for it because either they lurked or you ran into them when you were flanking, like here, and you died to it. It's not that the initial decision was bad. It's that now we have to adapt as the game goes on. So this first round here, I like to think about the first 3 or 4 rounds of the game as gathering info and what they're doing. Like, do they rush? Do they default? Do they lurk? You kind of go from there, and then you adapt as the game goes on. and you bias your default mode towards fast rotating. So this first death, completely within the realms of what we should be doing, actually, minus potentially the actual C starting position.
Okay.
So next round here, now that we know that that guy's playing like a rat, we now have to adapt to that. So if we are going to push later in the game, we're going to have to be a bit more cautious. Or what I saw Oxy do on Lotus is he flanked on pistol round, died in the first 10 seconds, and then never flanked for the rest of the game. And he would just fast rotate in his spawn instead. So that's something you could do as well. I don't know if that was a map specific thing though, but something to keep in mind too. Like I imagine if he got away with the flank, he might have done it a bit more. So pushing down round 2, I did notice we didn't buy a gun. Typically you'll buy like a ghost or something, or like a stinger or something like that in round 2 if you didn't save something. But looking at a minimap really quickly, it looks like they are 3A. The Phoenix is spotted this time. So if you're going game sense wise, if I was reading that the Phoenix was lurking for whatever reason, I might knife out at this point because the lurker has been spotted. Okay. Given we're in low elo, we probably can't make that assumption. So I do like that your gun is still out, clearing these corners. And we looks like so we're going to be in a retake here. Okay, let's take a look at this fight. So the actual flank is good. I do want to quickly talk about why flanking is good, even though it might be a bit redundant. But basically, you box them into one side of the map. We call this containing. So if like a lot of people are spotted on one side of the map, in this case we saw 3 at the start, and you push the other side of the map, you basically process of eliminate and slowly box them into one side or like one area of the map. So let's kind of just run through that exact same scenario again. They start heavy A, let's just put 3 here. But instead of flanking, we decided to rotate. They could technically be in any of this space here. So it's still unknown, right? But if we were to push it and take the space instead, let me erase. We're now slowly whittling down the box to where they're only going to be in like less, like they can't be here because we're here, right? So they're going to be more on one side. So that's the main benefit of pushing up and flanking. It's not actually the flank itself. It's just that you know for certain that they're going to be on this part of the map. So from a map control perspective, flanking and taking extremity space works really well. I also realize that this is a bit high level, but it's also a fundamental of the game that probably won't be applied super much into your games yet. Like you won't be exploiting it. But it's probably one of those like fundamental concepts that we haven't been able to touch on that influences some of our fights here. So just take it with a grain of salt what I'm saying. Like it's just like if you're to learn a sport, for example, like let's say basketball, you know that there's 2 sides and then there's hoops. Like this is pretty much what that is. You don't really have to take advantage of it too much. But I just want you to understand. Let's take a look at this fight really quick. So the premium did look good.
Spike planted.
Let's take a look at the actual swing. Yeah, it does look good.
Spike planted.
Yeah, I'd say this is acceptable. It's definitely some micros that we could have hit, but I would say acceptable. Okay, let's take a look at the actual blind fight here. Good omen bomb by them. Another thing with flanking that actually is a really good thing here in this case is you're creating pressure on the pinch. So like your teammates are making pressure fighting and you're fighting. So now they're stuck on both sides. They have to fight their way out. So now they turn around and fight us, which means that your teammates can stick the bomb and win. So flanking is really good even if you're alone. Typically when you flank and you get spotted, you try to play your life because the longer you're alive, the more like inherent pressure you put in, even if you aren't getting a kill. So regardless, I just wanted to quickly mention that, but you basically won your teammates this round here because they get a free defuse because they're both fighting you. The actual gunfights itself is probably fine. Something that I did notice with our aim sometimes is when we shoot, we kind of like do this like little jitter right there. Tension might be something to look at, but let's keep going for now. So it looks like we are kind of just filling in the gap so far. This, again, is going to be the easiest thing to change to get a bit more value, but let's see here. Looks like they just go A again. Maybe the Phoenix. Okay. So in this case, the Phoenix still isn't spotted, so it's good that your gun is still out. And that for good reason. This guy's watching us flank like an idiot. I don't know why he's here, but yeah, that's Phoenix. I mean, probably fill player. I'm not really sure what's going on here, but again, we can't really predict too much, so it's really good that your gun is out here and you're looking at your angles. Let's take a look at the actual peak. Okay, so we weren't expecting him necessarily, it looks like, because we're doing like a W key peak, where we're kind of holding W and D at the same time. It's a good rule of thumb, even if you aren't actually expecting a player there, to just peek all the common angles as you would. Like, so let's say I'm just gun out, I'm flanking C right now, or I'm pushing through C and I'm clearing the rest of the map. I'd just run out, gun out, but then I would actually peek this door angle, or I would peek this angle here, whatever. I'd probably more so peek this corner, really. Like I'm gun out here and then I peek this angle, and then I keep going, and then I run out here, gun out, peek this angle, keep going, peek this angle, or maybe I'd peek this angle. But basically, at least peek the common angle as you're coming around it, instead of like rounding it like this, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's definitely a discipline thing. The thing that I was told in CS was to clear your corners like it's your religion, and that really stuck with me. So
okay, I'll do so.
We subscribe to that. Good gunfight hygiene though. Like you're shooting and moving, which is good. Like that guy almost got destroyed. Good flash by him. And looks like this guy's throwing the whole kitchen sink at you. Okay, so clear the corner. Looks like close right maybe? Okay, so this guy really just left. He's playing the whole game sense game right now. Clearing flank, filling in the gap, not overextending on the fights. Like this guy is more so playing correct Valorant, like if I put it in air quotes, because he's not giving, like he's filling in the gaps and not taking too much risk, right? So if you were to try to play more correct Valorant, it's kind of like what you were doing when we first started coaching, when you were playing the deadlock, you would like throw your util on defense, like wall when you heard them and then run away. That's definitely the smarter way to play the game. I don't really advise most people to do that for the reason that I think it is better just to simplify the game and take the gun duels, but I'm trying to explain the thought process of the Phoenix here. So he spots you on flank, and then he runs away to go to his teammates to play a trade, which then puts us into a difficult situation. But let's take a look at the actual gunfights here. So we're coming up long here. Crosshair placement definitely looks better, but I will say it's difficult to W key. So when in the customs, we practice the skill of like contacting, which basically is like walking up on angles dry, like you're kind of just shift walking and peeking, stuff like that. And hopefully we'll see some of that a bit more in this game. But what we're doing here as we're running up long is basically W keying. So we're running up here, W, 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 and then now you have to pause to clear these corners. So like the correct way to W key this angle is actually not to W key. You stop here, peek out, and then you start Wing again, and then like you basically start jiggling. So let me kind of go back a little bit more. The way you properly W key, or like go fast, let's kind of use that term instead. The proper way to go fast when you're scaling in this game is to actually use A and D on the common angles. And then as you're scaling after that, you trace the angle that you're expecting to get fought from as you're holding W and a directional key. So in this case, if I'm coming up long here, I can't just A and D everything, right? It's gonna be unrealistic. So I scale up by holding W and D as I'm making a ton of noise. And I'm holding crosshair gap, hoping that if they swing me, I can react to it. And then when I get to the angle, I'll stop, no longer holding W or D, go for the preaim, swing the common angle, and then proceed as normal. In this case here, I actually have to clear close right, so I'm gonna peek out a little bit and then do the same thing, peek, peek. And then from here, I'm gonna probably jiggle or whatever, but this is where the A and D stuff comes in. And then peeking sight, boom, boom. And then this is where I'll do the WA again. In this case, I want to clear this corner, so WA trace. And then I get to the corner, I peek out, no more W. And then from here, I can pretty much A and D peek most things. So I'm going to A and D peek this, A and D peek this, and then A and D peek this. And then now I have to scale again. So this is where I'll incorporate W. And in this case, I'll do W and D to the right with tracing the edge here, like so. And then I'm getting to this common angle here. If there was no smoke, I would stop here, preem, and then peek. If there was no smoke here, I would continue scaling until I get to the edge of the smoke on the side of the box, and then probably peek out here. Or if you know for a fact that there's a player here, you would WD the entire time, and then you would stop and then go for actual A and D peek. I know that's a lot of things at that moment. I just want to introduce the concept to you. We'll train that separately.
Yeah.
But that's the idea. Does that make sense?
Seeing it after seeing how I played it out in round also helps a lot. I think if we just went over that in customs, it would be harder to make the connection.
I see. That's good to know.
Last player standing.
And then let's see the actual preamp here. So obviously this fight is tough.
Player standing.
But yeah, we are moving about it pretty quickly.
Last player standing.
Sometimes when I don't have, like, notice how your crosshairs here on the transition. It does. Flicking from like one side and then coming back does take time. Like, this is a skill in itself, going from here to flicking here on that fight. So if it does take you a while, it's okay to go from here, flick back, and then go, instead of like doing it in one motion. It's better to have your crosshair in the correct place before you continue moving. So that is really important. But as you get better at knowing kind of the awareness of the map and your I guess angle clearing and like flicking around and stuff, it will be easier for you just to go from here and then like immediately turn and do that. But again, it is better just to do this first until you're a lot quicker with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, let's keep going here. I do like the aggression though. I like that we're running it down. Again, the main thing that we're seeing here is that we don't get impact because we're playing C and they're going A. Like, I want you to keep that in mind. Is it goes back to that 80-20, is like our options are limited. Like, the brown looks exactly the same every single time, and we don't actually get a favorable fight because we're on the flank and the bomb is already down. So keep that in mind. Starting position is the biggest thing. So 3 spotted A again. The round is pretty much already over, which is why it is so important for us to play that fast rotate or just have a really good pre-round read. In this case, in this specific game, they've started A every single round, which means our starting position this round actually might not be B, it might be A, because they showed that they're fighting A off rep and we want to get an early fight as a duelist. So, I mean, I know we're on a ghost here, but let's just pretend like this was a gun round and you were trying to win the game or like take the game into your own hands. You would try and recall what they've done previously, which in this case is just go A, and then you would probably start A somewhere. Like, you'd probably start bricks or like peeking short like they did, and you'd hopefully win that duel. Now, you don't have to. If I was playing a Sentinel, for example, I would hopefully predict that they're going A, and then I would set up on A site, like throw whatever util, and then I'd hopefully have a good site hold. But as a duelist, the way you play site holds is actually by contesting early space and then falling back. Given that you play both Deadlock and Reyna, your decision might be a little bit different here. Like, if you're playing Deadlock, you might just set up on A and sit on A, and hopefully they hit the bomb site. But if you're playing Reyna, you might not set up on A, you would just like go for an early fight. Now, my advice to you, even with Deadlock, is to just go for the A fight anyways. Deadlock is a little bit broken right now, in the sense that the nade recharges, and that nade is really fucking good at contesting early space. So let's just pretend like you wanted to fight A, instead of just setting up on A and waiting for them to come into you, like sound sensor,
Listening.
and you just sit here on backside. This is probably what, like 99% of like Sentinel players below gold and below probably just like set up their stuff here and just AFK. If they hit the bomb site, it's going to go great for you. They're going to run into the util. No one's going to break the util. You'll probably get free kills, or at the very least, you'll be able to time your fight off of your util, which is a very big crutch that lower ranked Sentinel players do. For example, if I have a Killjoy turret here, all I have to do backside is wait until that turret shoots and then a peek off of it, which makes your life as a defender very easy, because the decision making is your peak timing is outsourced to your turret. But the problem with all of that is, if I set up and I have like turret here, molly here, everything all on the bomb site, and they just start here looking for fights and then they leave, well, that sucks, right? So generally, it's better to try and look for the early duel here, so you can at least get that gunfight, just in case if they do leave, you're not kind of just sitting there and not getting any impact. So with Deadlock specifically, if your read was they're going to come A because they've gone A the previous round and you're trying to take control of the game, you just run up here with your nade and just send it. Hopefully you get a kill. Hopefully you get 2 kills. But you just want to take that fight. Now you don't have to do it exactly like how I did it, where I naded and ran up on this wall here as cover, and then peeked out. That's how I like to do it because when I play Raze, I do the same thing. But there is a small timing that I'm not going to get into. So in your case, you might prefer to be more comfortable to nading and then kind of peeking out from here. That's also completely acceptable. My point is, I want you to try and fight the early space, regardless of your agent, if your read is that they're going A. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep going. So again, they go A. This time we're opting to clear the mid lurk from garage, which makes sense. And we'll end up on A. So there's that mid lurk. Couple things here. You're actually making the correct decision from a macro perspective. So if they show heavy A presence and you rotate off of C, it's your job as the extremity player to clear the lurker. Like from a decision-making perspective, this makes a ton of sense. There's a couple caveats here though. Number one, we're making noise. So whenever you're clearing a lurker, it's a mini game. So as a lurker, you're basically looking for the end of the chain. Are you familiar with the chain concept?
No.
Okay, so let's just revisit the very start of the round and introduce the chain concept here, which is actually very terrible on this one. So we might want to use a different round. Okay, this is better. Okay, so I believe Woohoojin might have coined this concept. I'm not sure, but if we just think about your teammates all connected. Okay, so this line goes here, this line goes here, this line goes here. It's a very long chain with just individual points. Okay, so at this point here, there's 2 end of chain points. I'm just going to label this as point A and point B. Your A player is point A and you're point B here. So this is end of the chain, okay? You being the end of the chain player means that when your teammates rotate, it's going to naturally shift over and you're always going to try and be the end of the player. Like you're not going to jump here and try to overlap your teammate here because then this would force this player to be the end of the chain. Instead, when rotates happen on defense, everyone kind of shifts over, right? So let's kind of just do this logically a little bit. I'm gonna get rid of all this stuff. Okay, so let's say they make A presence really quickly. Your Sage is probably gonna rotate deeper onto bomb site like this. Your Yoru is gonna rotate into A. Your Taeho is then gonna rotate basically where your Yoru was. Your Breach is gonna fill in the gap on where the Taeho was, and then you're gonna pick up where the Taeho is. Wait, that's the Breach. But that's kind of the point. Everyone shifts over 1 increment, right?
Okay.
To keep the chain together so it's all connected. The lurker's job as an attacker, just stay with me here. The lurker's job as an attacker is to either exploit a gap in the chain or to find the end of the chain, which is going to be you in this case. Because if they kill you, they get the entire right side of the map. So if I'm chamber here and we just did that rotate, boom, Sage went here, Yoru went here, Taeho went here, Breach went there, and then you went garage. If I'm chamber and I can find you garage and I know you're the end of the chain player, I kill you, I know immediately I have this entire right side of the map. So I can knife out and go into spawn, I can call all of my teammates back to C. There's basically a huge gap to be filled there. And that's kind of the logic. So typically if you're anchoring, you're going to be an end of chain player. And if you're lurking, your job is to kill the end of the chain player, typically.
Okay.
Now, given that we know that there's that little mini game there, when you rotate, skipping forward 2 rounds, back to the round we're at, when we rotate here, our job, if we're looking for the mid lurker, is to go and kill that guy. Like that's the whole mini game that lurkers and extremity players play. It's not even a 5v5 game anymore, it's a 1v1. I think Woohoojin used the analogy of like finding the snitch in like the Quidditch in Harry Potter.
Oh, okay, I see.
On Icebox.
Mm-hmm.
And basically like whoever wins that 1v1, that whole dynamic kind of wins the map control game. I don't think that dynamic works as well on Haven, but you can kind of use that analogy here. So given that that's the mini game we're playing here, if you're rotating aggressively, which we are, you have to be hyper aware of this lurker and also do it without audio, which is scary and slow. So if you were doing it without audio, then you would have to clear all your angles here, kind of just walking out. Like if you get the kill here, great. If he isn't there, like you still have to go really slow, and it kind of just sucks, right? So the way you kind of get around some of this is by using info util, which we don't have, or by having your teammates kind of push with you. So if we were to go and try to fight this player here, which we don't have anyone on the map to do now, but pretend like your B player was going out and clearing mid with you while you were coming out and clearing garage, you're able to kind of force a pinch, even if you did it silently. So I know I'm kind of getting into high level stuff here, but that's kind of the game we're playing here. Now, if you are going to make noise like this, it's completely acceptable. It just means that the lurker now has to jump on you. So when you're kind of going around and clearing the angles like this, you just have to be really aware of this guy, which we weren't aware of this corner, but this is probably one of the most common lurk positions on this map. It's going to be, like if I'm going for this rotate super quickly and I'm trying to find the lurker, I'm probably only going to clear the common ones and kind of just have my gun out to look at other angles, but not actually properly peek it. So in this example here, let's say I'm rotating from garage. I probably will do this one silent. So I walk up, clear this, This is one of the most common lurk positions. This one here, and this one here. And then the third one would be like front B somewhere, like this cubby or here. So as a rotator from C going to A, I'm gonna rotate out of garage, going silent like this, probably clear this. And then honestly, most of the time I just gamble that he's not here. And if he's there, I die. But let's just pretend I'm flanking from this way. I probably would gun out and clear it like this. And then from here, I'd probably knife out because I've cleared a common spot. And then I would only pull out my gun again to fight the lurker on this angle, because sometimes he will sit spawn, or this window angle, and then obviously preparing for the A fights. But like that's kind of how I'm thinking about catching this lurker. But if you're rotating from B,
I didn't even look at or I didn't even think about the cubby area.
Yeah, the cubby.
It was like a second thought.
So yeah, if you're rotating here, you'd be like, okay, cool, this is clear. And then you kind of run up here, and then you do that W scaling tracing thing here until you get to the corner that you actually want to peek. Or you could like trace, and then as you get to the corner, you can peek, and then there. And once you clear that guy out, you're gonna have an easier time for the retake. But honestly, this whole game of like trying to catch the lurker and all of that stuff, you can avoid all of it if you just play the 80-20 rotate. Yeah. Like playing in the central of the map. Like your job isn't even to catch this player anymore. You're just hoping that you win the round by winning the actual A site hold, which is how I play the game. And to be clear, I, number one, don't like playing lurk on attack, and I don't like playing extremity player on defense because of this mini game, because it only influences one kill on the map, whereas I want to be where the pack is. And most of the time, the pack is going to be 3 or 4 players. So that's kind of why I've derived those numbers. And I think over the course of many games, if you play it in that way, where you're not fighting the 1v1 against the lurker, but playing for the site hold against all of the players, you will have more impact over the course of many games. So that's kind of the logic there. Let's keep going though. So we do play B, which is good. Definitely a better adaptation because they haven't gone C yet. And like I said earlier, you are able to fast rotate. So let's see how this plays out. Given that you do have 2 here though, even if you're alone, I'd encourage it. But given that you have 2 here, it might make sense for you to guys like to double hold window or something like that, which you do end up peeking out, which is good. The actual crosshair placement on the peak could be a little bit better. So when you peek out here, you probably want to bias it towards left side window, but also head level. But let's keep going here.
Joke's over!
Okay, so that is the Phoenix ult. They're continuing to go A. This would be a great round for us to fast rotate, which it looks like you're doing it. Knife out just for a little bit more speed. No, because obviously we're in our spawn here, so you have a bit more safety. But this should be a good site hold for us. We make it in time to get the fights. Let's see the actual outcome. Wow, they're actually not even hitting. They're just taking duels. But so far this is going really well. Like you can already see the night and day difference on the impact when we're starting C versus when we're playing B. And then we died to the B lurk. So that is actually what will happen when you over rotate. So he I don't know if he's actually smart enough to identify, but if this was a higher level game and he saw you getting kills on the minimap, let's just pretend like you were Cypher, because typically Cyphers play C, and he sees you getting kills on A, he's like, oh, that's the C player. Let me go and speed up my lurk. So that guy, if this was immortal, he might pull out his knife and then walk up front B and just like go for the hard commit on the flank because he knew you were the C player, right? You were the end of the chain player. Now, I don't think he's going to be that smart because we're in bronze, but you try to get into the mindset here. So again, main thing I want you to see here is the fact that you actually got kills before the bomb was planted, and you actually got fights before the round was, like, the outcome of the round was over, right? And that's the power of playing fast rotate. I really want you to embody that, because that's the whole point of the 80-20. You just play here, you just get so much value. So let's take a look at the actual gun duel piece, because of course mechanics is a big thing. So as you're rotating in here, the big thing that you'd want to be doing is staring at the minimap the entire time. Now there's a player in Radiant, actually, he ended rank 1 Radiant last act. His name is NoteXXD. He rotates with his minimap open. Every time he checks his minimap, he just opens this thing. Now, I don't know why the fuck he does that. It's like he's schizo or something. But the main benefit is that I get to see his map when he's streaming because he has a minimap cover, but also the minimap becomes bigger. Okay, so it makes it very clear to me as a VOD reviewer to know when he's looking at the minimap. And when he's rotating, he looks at the minimap here. Now, in your case, in most players' cases, they don't open the minimap, they just look at the minimap here as they're rotating. So basically, as you're rotating in here, number one, knife out to be faster, right? Because there's no danger here. And as you're rotating here, you actually shouldn't even be looking at your crosshair or your gun or whatever. Your eye should be glued onto the top left of your screen. And then the thing I'm looking at here is, where are my teammates? So this is going to be a bit redundant, but you can see what your teammates are holding based on the light. Some people don't have that option on in their minimap, so check. But it's this thing here. It's called minimap vision cones. Sometimes it's on, sometimes it's off, I don't know. But basically, when you're rotating in, you're looking at vision cones, so you know what angles they're holding. So if I'm looking at the map right now, I see that they have a long info and short info, which is great. And then when this wall comes up, the vision cone blocks off because of the sage wall, but I can still see that they're holding front sight. And now I know that I can peek off of my Phoenix. So gathering the info from the vision cones and your teammates, you're trying to decide what you're going to look at and how you can play off of your teammate. In this case, it's a very simple peek off of teammates' contact play, because the Phoenix is already in the open and the Sage has contact. But the example that you might want to consider is, let's say like we have the sight line here, you see this line, but we don't have the sight line like the gray here. If you're rotating in spawn here, you could simply just wait until the player here sees this player and then you peek off of his contact. That's a simple like setup that most people do. But if you're being aggressive and you want to take the fight early, you would have to register on the minimap that there's this sight line, but not this sight line, which means that when you rotate in here, if you were to take the fight without waiting for your teammate's contact, you would make sure you're super ready for it, because this is fog of war. And you can use flashes and stuff. But that's kind of inside the mind of the rotator, right? So when you come out here, this flash actually is going to be too slow because the Phoenix is already fighting your Sage. So if you knew that, reading the minimap, it's probably better for you to just take this fight dry and then tuck back into cover and then come back out. Because timing is really everything in this game. You want to try to time your fights like in the same window that your teammate is fighting, not after. If it's going to be after, it's like split second after. Like that's kind of the contact thing. But if it's too long after, they might have the option of just getting the fight and TPing out. So pretend like that Phoenix right there was actually Reyna. He could technically kill your Sage and then dismiss out, and now you don't get the trade. Which is also why Reyna is broken, but whatever. So we swing out here. The big thing on this swing out isn't actually the timing, even though I just put so much emphasis on it. It's the crosshair placement. So when we come out here, we have to be ready on this fight because this is the only threat available, and we would try and figure that out by reading on the minimap. And when you're kind of rotating in, I know you mentioned visualizing angles isn't as easy, but that's what I would be doing here. I would try to visualize this fight.
It's also because I just threw the
blinds,
layers, so it was hard for me to correct it. But I honestly should have just stopped before and did that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad you mentioned that. That goes back to what we were saying when we're scaling up long here. So if it's going to take us time to build up that speed, I'd rather you flash and then not even peek with it. Just flash and then get your crosshair centered and then go. Like the setup of a fight is probably not as important in your rank, to be honest. But as you climb the ladder, the actual setup of the fight is the biggest part of the gun duel, not actually the gun duel itself. So keep that in mind. But we come out here, all good. We're on the site, we're playing fast rotate. The big thing to notice here is then how do we select our next fight? So this is kind of like you might have heard on YouTube videos or something that coaches might say, or like content creators might say, like good players get good fights or something along those lines. And then they never really define what a good fight is. Most of the time, a good fight means you have info on the enemy before you take the fight, so your setup is really good. And then the other side to that is you don't swing into multiple people and then get insta-killed. But in choosing a good fight here, you would want info. So notice how when we're going for this fight, we actually don't have that much info. We just have a vague idea that they're up A long. But if you look at minimap really quickly, your Taeho loses the vision onto A long. And that's a very subtle thing that we just only heard from the Omen smoke. I'm not expecting you to understand any of this like when you're actually in the game, but I just want you to understand the concept.
Yeah.
So our A long player no longer has info, which means us wide swinging into A long here is actually a bad idea because it's really, there's a high chance that we're going to swing into multiple players because we can't isolate it without seeing the info, right? So then that begs the question, well, Dopai, if I don't have info, how do I swing long? Well, that's kind of where you can implement jiggling. So if I'm jiggling, you can jiggle one angle at a time. One, boom, now it's isolated. And then you can slowly branch yourself out to clear more space. That's one option. Option two is to do a tight peek. So in this case, the best way I like to do the tight peek is going back here because it lets me isolate this left side long fight without exposing to the right. And then I can get that fight pretty cleanly. You don't have to do it from this far back, but if you understand angle advantage on anything, it just helps a little bit. But you can definitely just slice left side long from here. Okay, so in short, you need info, okay? If you don't have info, you're going to play in a way that lets you get info, either by juggling or tight peeking, so you can actually isolate your fights. And this is what it means to isolate and slice the pie and all that stuff. Now, here's the caveat I'm gonna throw at you because you're playing Reyna, okay? So if I'm playing Reyna here and they're coming up A long and I don't have that time to slice the pie, or I just want to take the quick fight because there's util dump or whatever, I just want the fight, okay? Let me switch my agent. That's where the flash comes in, right? So flashes kind of break the game in the sense that you don't actually have to be thorough and slice the pie. You can just send it. So if I want to swing long here, flash, and I just wide swing, right? Now, I'm gonna add another detail here. If I'm wide swinging, this ideally isn't done with an angle in mind. You want to pick an angle that you are going to wide swing, okay? So let me kind of just break down the two. If I'm gonna wide swing here and I don't have an angle in mind, what it's going to look like is I'm gonna flash, I'm going to swing out, and then I'm going to see an enemy, and then I'm going to react, stop, and then shoot or aim at the guy, which is kind of like what we did here, just pretend like you don't have the flash, okay? So we're wide swinging this long angle here without an enemy in mind, and then we have to adjust our crosshair. Let me slow it down quickly. Probably should have waited, but you'll kind of see it when we come up long here. When you wide swing, it's ideally you're picking an angle so that you can kind of just pre-aim. Your pre-aim is good, but if you don't have a proper angle that you're picking here, as you see here, we're kind of just swinging. We then have to adjust mid-swing to get the kill. And that obviously means that it's no longer a crosshair placement, it's going to be your active aim. And the whole point of the setup before the fight is to aim as little as possible, okay?
Yeah.
So with that said, let's kind of explain how this would work. So if I'm flashing here and I want a wide swing, I'm already in my head picking one of the sides I'm gonna swing. I'm hopefully pre-aiming left side and getting that kill. Even though it's a wide swing, maybe I should clarify a little bit more. a tight peek, you try and isolate literally as little of the angle as possible so you don't get cleared by another guy. So to me, in definition, a wide swing is swinging an angle while exposing to other angles and with a wider cadence, like you're stepping a bit wider. Some people confuse this with the pop and swing, where it's like you're just going super, super wide and then you see the target and then they shoot and then you stop and then you shoot. To me, a wide swing is different than the pop and swing. So just kind of keep that in mind for the terms. Okay?
I mean, they sound different when you explain it like that.
Okay, so in this case here, if I'm flashing, I'm ideally picking an angle, right? So in this case, again, I'm going to then choose the right side. I'm just going to pre-aim the right side of the wall, which means if there's a player on the left, I'm not going to react to the player on the left until I peek the right side, because that's kind of the thesis I'm going with, and I have the flash, right? So I'm going here, I'm swinging right side, pre-aim, boom, there. And then if there was a player on the left, I would react after I've cleared this angle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like how you play with flashes generally, but it just gives you the ability to not slice the pie and everything, and just like lets you go wide, because this flash buys you time to get out from cover. Okay, so in short, if you're gonna wide swing, pick your angle ahead of time. And this is actually what you will do naturally when you clear common angles, right? Like let's say like I'm coming up long here and I'm about to swing bricks, like left side bricks. I'm picking this angle and I'm swinging it. Well, that's terrible for aim, but you get the point. Swinging this one. Even though I'm exposing to these angles here, like I'm wide swinging that angle. So, or if I'm wide swinging out of mid, let's say I pick the left side of this door frame here, I'm gonna swing for that. Even though I'm exposing to everything else, I'm picking that angle ahead of time, and if there's somewhere else, I react based on that. But I'm hoping that I get this kill, because if he's there, it's an insta kill. This is how you get the insta kills in this game. Now I'm going on a quick on a tangent here, but that's kind of the thought process on how you would pick these fights. So to kind of recap from the beginning, you're rotating, you look at the mini map, okay, you look at your sight lines, you look at where your players are. Can I get a peek off of my teammate's contact? That's the first thing you need to be thinking about. As you rotate in here, in this case, Phoenix is spotted, right? So it would be ideal for us to swing now to immediately kill the Phoenix. Number one, to save our Sage, potentially, or to get the trade immediately if she were to die. We pull out the flash, which is still acceptable. We pull out the flash, we swing. This is where that crosshair placement would ideally be better, so you would get the insta-kill on this player. Now, if your other option actually is to just wait until your Sage sees the player and then you flash and swing off the Reyna's contact. But whatever, we come out, we make it onto site. Now, how do we select our next fight? You could just wait, kind of like what we said before. You wait till your Sage shoots. There's going to be scenarios though where your Sage, I closed the whole tab somehow. Hold on. Oops. Hotkeys. Let me speed up a bit. So there are going to be scenarios where your teammate isn't going to be in that corner, which means how do you take your next fight, right? That is a problem many people struggle with. So let's just like wipe this Sage from memory. Let's say she's not even part of this round. The only players that are on the A-bomb site is you and the Teo Heaven, okay? That means that this is where you have to implement your flash, which is what we were just talking about. So you could, I guess, just sit here and wait, which then runs the risk of you getting pinched from the right side. So typically it's better for you to fight one side. So in this case, you could slice the pie, you could peek out, boom, slice, slice, slice. I do really tight peeks, clearing all the angles, not overexposing. You can try to get your kill that way, because we don't have information. But you could also just loosely know that they're coming up long, throw the flash, pick an angle, wide swing for that, get the kill, or get that fight and then tuck back, and then maybe you flash again, the next angle, go from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back into this.
Yeah, I think I was rushing a bit here.
Which definitely makes sense. We never explored this topic before, but also site holds are very chaotic. It's going to be very hard to kind of actually pick your fights, but we do a good job of tucking back into cover and kind of, you know, isolating the fight even after that. So you notice that your Omen tucked here and then your teammate was shooting the player on the right, and you decided to commit on that right side swing, which is actually really good. Like that's micro fight IQ right there that's showing off. And then from here, you get another kill here. So the big thing here is that you're actually repositioning after your first kill and going for a different lane. That is really good, right? Like you're not over fighting on A long. You're bouncing back and fighting a new lane, which is actually kind of what you did the first time anyways. You fought short, fought long, fought short. Like that is good. The thing that you might want to consider doing here though is instead play off of the Sage contact. So given that this player is here, he's basically your killjoy turret in that example I was saying earlier, where Sentinels just, you know, play off of the killjoy turret. This is what you would want to do, peek off of your homie's contact. And that would increase your success rate on fights dramatically, not only because he has pressure, but because you have info on the player, so your pre-aim is going to be better. Like your crosshair would be ready. And to do that properly, you look at your mini-map, of course. But even though we swing this, it actually comes up that this Phoenix falls here, so then, you know, this player wouldn't have gotten contact anyways, but we wouldn't know that ahead of time. But going for this fight here, you would want your crosshair placement to actually be level, right? So I know this is something that we have been working on and it's gotten better, but just to re-emphasize here, better crosshair placement, making sure you're ready for the actual fight before committing to it, would ideally get you the insta kill here. Now we do end up getting the kill. It's just not, you know, a headshot. But from here,
well, that's what I mean by slowing down a little, because it's like after I throw the leer, I don't go to reposition my crosshair, and then after I dismiss, then I don't go to reposition my crosshair, so it's a bit messy.
Yeah, and honestly, that's like comes with time, but you could try to train some of that stuff in the range potentially. Like I could see you practicing in the range with like leering and then flicking back down. I could also see you getting a kill and then resetting it back to the middle pole, kind of like flick, going from right to left. Like you could definitely do some of that centering stuff. But I would imagine you'd be able to do it in like an isolated environment. Oh yeah, and then we died to alert. So that was that whole chain conversation. We'll kind of just keep going here. Okay, so starting position, we are leaning A side, which is good given what they're doing here. You could commit to the A fight if you were having the read that they were going A continuously and just fight A. That is also acceptable. And if they aren't there, you're going to play retake anywhere else anyways. You could even try to flank, but you could commit to that. It does look like we opt to fill in the B gap instead. So let's see. Sounds like they're going for a C split. We are pausing on the rotate, so this is acceptable. Given that there's such a big gap here, it might make sense for us to hold. If we were playing for the site hold, you would obviously rotate a bit quicker here, but given the context, this probably makes sense. On the downtime here, typically when you're waiting for your teammates to rotate in, it's a good time to utilize that downtime to clear out the lurker. So let's just pretend like you knew for a fact that your read was they were going C here, which is kind of why you're holding for this garage window. It might make more sense for you to utilize some util to clear out the mid lurk so that your teammates can rotate a bit more freely. The other argument is to just wait for your teammates to get to you and then you guys would clear it together. But essentially, since you're playing for the retake anyways, it's good for you to clear out the lurker so you don't have to worry about the lurker shooting you in the back as you're playing for the retake, which is kind of what happened with the chamber last round. So in short, you just try to flash and clear this guy, and then from here, once it's clear, you can probably continue going for the retake. And that's just generally a good idea to do. Clear out the lurker before you commit to a retake, if it's going to take time like this. So yeah, there's probably going to be a chamber lurking. Your Teo is going to peek out windows soon, so hopefully he clears the lurk. I don't think he will be able to if he's standing on the cubby, but it actually doesn't happen. So thankfully, that's worked well for us. Hopefully this guy doesn't come out. Yeah, the chamber is with the team, so there was no lurk this round, which is great. Let's talk about the actual retake here. So coming out, this guy dies. 4v4, smokes here, fading. Teammates are kind of coming up. You're prepping for the retake off of the smoke fade. This is fine. In normal circumstances, you would try and time your retake with your players. So you flashing out spawn here might make sense for you to wait until you see your players coming up garage, so that the timing of the pinch is actually better. A lot of things we're touching on right now is making plays based on the awareness of your teammates. So that's a whole separate skill, minimap awareness. But if you were to time it, this is how you would time it, because you would want to come out of both choke points at the same time. In this case, we're coming out of spawn before they're even making pressure garage, which means likely a lot of their attention is going to be on us. This player is looking at us, this player is looking at us. They haven't even cleared the tunnel yet because there's a chamber there. So you're pretty much all eyes on you type of thing, which is good because you use the flash, but it just makes your life a bit harder here.
Yeah.
Given the time constraints anyways, I would have made this play on this timing anyways, but I kind of just want you to understand the whole retake timing. So we flash out. Let's take a look at the crosshair placement. So again, kind of going on the A-long thing, ideally you pick an angle you're going to swing. So in this case here, given how we're flashing this, I'd probably pick like this deep cubby angle or like towards the default box. But we flash, we swing out, we see the players, and then we react. So that's the big thing here. It's not really a crosshair placement that's winning us the fight. It's just the actual raw aim plus the flash assisting us. But we get the kill. We actually almost get that kill too. Wow. This is the whole eyes on you type of thing. So if we were timed this retake slightly differently, maybe this guy isn't shooting at us. It's not actually that important because we're playing Reyna. So most of the time when you get a kill, you actually just insta-grab the dismiss and then tuck back into cover. That's probably the easiest thing to do here. Or if you isolated the fights because we were taking our time, we might have not exposed to this player and could have killed this player. So there's a couple of different ways that this could have played out here. But flashing and wide swinging is going to be very common to do on Reyna. It's just typically if you do that, you get the kill and peace out. Even though we almost got the kill, that would be more technically correct, getting the kill dismissing. But it's a pretty good attempt on the kill here. I can see your crosshair is really close. I do want to slow it down just slightly and see how close we are. So again, pre-aim, you'll see it here. Flick up, boop, boop, boop. And let's see here. The flick down was a bit aggressive. I don't expect you to have really clean lines here, but ideally we stop our flick around here and then carry our crosshair back over with the strafe to the left. So that's really hard to do in the moment, but if you're playing like an aim lab scenario here, you see this target here, and you're introducing strafes, you would flick here and then strafe left, and then that would carry it in. Or if this was a very like a static scenario where you can't move, you would flick here and then micro adjust here. Or try to flick directly on target, but yeah. It is really close though. Probably the biggest thing to notice is how much our crosshair moves here. So when now that your crosshair is here and you shoot, your crosshair shouldn't move anymore aside from the recoil of the gun. Unless you're committing to the spray, of course. But this is going to be potentially a bit redundant to say. When you burst in this game, you shouldn't actually move the mouse at all. So like when you shoot with the burst, like wherever your bullets go, they just go. So some people try and control their burst by pulling down. I know we talked about this a bit more. You only control your bullets after the first 2 bullets or maybe in the first 3 bullets. So if you were to pull down, it would happen after the first 2 bullets, which means we shouldn't actually see your crosshair move this much if it was a quick burst. Now, that isn't the case if you were spraying. You would shoot 2 bullets and then control it, right? And then that could be acceptable. But I think what we do here is we actually go for, if you look at the bottom right here, it's actually not a spray. You're going to see us click left click 3 different times, which means potentially we're trying to burst or tap, but the cadence is too quick. In which case, we still shouldn't actually even see our crosshair move because we're not spray controlling here, we're bursting / tapping. So given that, if we go back slightly, this was our burst. Our crosshair should no longer move to adjust for the recoil. It should just be to try to recenter your crosshair back on target. So the whole aiming portion here isn't actually that applicable. You should just kind of shoot and then let the recoil reset and then shoot again. Because your crosshair is really close to this target. Maybe it's more notable to say too that we shouldn't try to aim with the recoil, I guess. Like I don't want you to control the recoil is my whole point of saying this. But it does look like we're trying to control the recoil, but we're not actually going for the spray because we're clicking mouse 1 3 different times. And at full speed, it might not look like we're spraying, but that's kind of what we're seeing here. It's just a lot of mini burst, which is why it's so hard to get that kill. So this is kind of why I always talk about spray control. Like you very easily could just simplify this gun duel and just spray this guy. And you probably would have killed the guy instead of like shooting like 3 different cadences very quickly. But the hard thing to get your head around that is understanding that your bullets don't go where your crosshair is when you're spraying, which is obviously honestly a pretty big hurdle for a lot of people. And it was for me too when I played CS. Like I would try to line up my crosshair and only shoot a couple of times, and then I'm like, why are my bullets going elsewhere? But that's the whole recoil control thing there. So I don't want to hang up too much on that. Let's keep going. Okay, so I'm gonna skip the pistol round here. I just want to see gun rounds since I spent a bit of time on this. Okay, so we're back to C long.
There.
You call C. Okay, this would be a good time to flash and go for that pre-aim. So you would want to choose an angle ahead of time. It looks like we're choosing the deep one here based on the sound. Given the sound here, I probably would have opted for this left one. But I do like that you're trying to make an attempt on the angle picking. Given that we have a hard time centering after the flash, in the future, it might look something like this, where you flash and then aim like this. Just take that time. And that also gives you time to pull out your gun, to be honest. So that'd probably be what I would look for in the future.
Yeah.
But the actual fight is fine. We go for it again. Now we'd want to pre-aim the cubby, which we kind of did, but we opted for the wide swing instead. And we also got pinched from garage. So this death is completely acceptable. I do like that you're looking for the fights. The positioning here is kind of what got us killed because we're going for the early fight here. And then you hear them and then we kind of bailed. And we're playing a position that we can't get away from until you get the kill. So as a Jet, this is completely fine because you just take the swing again and then you can dash away. As a Reyna, you might opt more to play on this side. So even if you don't get the kill on your flash and re-swings, even if you don't get the kill, you could then reposition. Which there's nothing wrong with playing one and dones as Reyna, but the way we're playing it, you might want to play more of a guaranteed kill. Like maybe you'd wait until they're here and then you get the kill and then you dismiss the backside or something.
All right.
Okay, so let's keep going. Eco round again, so I'm just gonna skim through this one. Go next round. Okay. So it looks like we're playing majority C this game, which is definitely an easy change. So they are coming into a C split again. So we just have to figure out how to isolate these fights. Oh wow, actually committed to B. Okay, so Arior got some info C long. Normally that's us, that should be the player that gets info C long, but I really did think it was a split. Oh, here it's coming. I think. So there's a player C shooting and there's a player garage. I don't know what's going on. Let's take a look at this actual fight here. So you did hear the reload on the right, so you move your crosshair over. I'll say the initial crosshair placement is acceptable. Let's take a look at the actual gunfight. Okay, so this is where we're aiming too much probably. Notice how your second bullet is actually following this player dramatically. We shoot the first bullet there and then your second bullet is there. Some people do get kills like that. I've definitely gotten kills like that before where I'm trying to control my second bullet on the burst. To me, I think it's a bit unrealistic. Like, I think for most people, it's going to be better to assume that your first burst is just like a isolated entity. So let's say like the player is still strafing left, you burst here. You don't actually control the bursts like sideways. You just burst here and then you strafe again and then reset and go for another attempt. So basically what we're seeing right now is actually a lot of active aiming in fights that might not actually need it. But after the second burst, this is where we should then reset our crosshair and then go for another burst. So let's see. So we do that. We are controlling that second and third bullet again, instead of trusting our first hit confirmation. So you can see the second and third bullet on the second burst is miles away from our first shot.
Yeah.
Which, if you're spray controlling, is kind of a different story. So for tapping in burst, you kind of just rely on like whatever the gun does after. You don't really like aim too much. But if you are spray controlling, it's a different story. Like let's say like this guy was strafing to the left, you're trying to, adjust for that. You would obviously move your crosshair with the spray. But with the burst, it's much less common to do so. So that's kind of what I would advise against doing at this point in time. I think it's probably a bad habit. Maybe in the very, very advanced level, you can get away with shit like this, but it's really inconsistent to actually aim your second bullet. So burst, just let the gun do the work on the burst and rely on your initial hit confirmation in your target, like your crosshair and target confirmation on your click to win that fight. And if it's a miss, then you just reset again by strafing and then trying to go for another target confirmation shot. That's kind of how it goes. You don't try to recover mid burst unless you're transitioning it into a spray. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. But you do get the kill, which is obviously ideal. I'd probably grab the heal there, but that's okay.
Yeah, sometimes I get the wrong one. That's normal.
Yeah. Okay, so coming out mid here, obviously these fights are pretty scary, so this would be a good time for you to use your blind. Just high blind and come out, because we don't have the time to slice the pie one by one, right? So this would be a really good time for us just to blind, because it helps us clear a lot of angles at once. Or at least it de-risks it. I'm trying to figure out what's going on though. It sounds like they're all playing sight. We might want to check the cubby on the left. I don't know what that guy is doing. So we've been seeing that guy lurk all game. So really good kill. The crosshair placement on the adjustment was really good. Let's see the actual angle snap. It does take a while, so that's like 2 swipes there. It looks like a little bit, but good gun hygiene for sure. Moving and shooting, and we should just win that. Okay, so definitely good fight conversion there. Back to the C start. Okay, so they're A again. Definitely their pattern in this game. Oh, it's only the one though. Phoenix is spotted. Looks like it might be a B round. Okay. So it looks like we were actually kind of scared that they would be in B. Just based off of timing, it's impossible. I don't expect you to know that here, but just it is like, yeah, it is impossible. But even when you come back to peek front B here, notice how like we aren't ready crosshair wise. That's that fast thing happening again. You want your crosshair ready for that. Let's see the actual fight. So this guy's walked in, I think. Yeah, he is. Yeah, nice kill. Crosshair placement looks good there. And they're planning C. Okay, so despite us over rotating, that is what you'd want to do. Even though they got the fake, it is completely acceptable. Okay, so let's take a look at these angle clears here. This goes back to the whole contacting thing and not actually the W keying. But you can see garage is actually kind of hard to clear. It looks like we're trying to aim for the bottom garage angles here. I'll just visually show you what it could look like. I don't expect you to know this, but first and foremost, when you come up on this garage angle, you actually don't want to be so close to the wall, just in case there's a player holding this angle. So when you come up and clear garage, it's best to do it with a bit of distance so you can maintain angle advantage, right? So this is 5 meters. This player holding it, it's about 5 meters as well. So you just want a bit more distance here instead of being so close. Honestly, a lot of this is going to be feel-based for a lot of people. But as you're learning it, feel free to use the ping system. But yeah, coming out here, you would clear garage from a bit of distance, and then you're coming here. And then now that you've cleared this angle here, you can probably start clearing these. I prefer to use jiggles because none of these fights are advantageous for us. And then now that I've kind of gotten info that they're not on any of these angles, they're boxed into these potential too, right? So from here, personally, I would probably opt for a wide swing. And then if he's in one of these corners, I'll try to hit the flick. But I'm probably, committing to this angle here. That's the whole name of the game. You just like slowly clear off angles with tight peaks or jiggle peaks until you can box in to an area that you're very confident that if they are there, you get the kill and you aren't overswinging into other angles. So that's what this wide swing is. Let's keep going though. Oh wait, we got rest. Let's take a look at that. Shout out Sage. Okay, so given that we spoke about the retake before, you'd want to time your garage push with the breach here, if you could. It looks like it will naturally work out, just because he's out early. Okay, flash.
One enemy remaining.
Flash. Okay, we don't have to flash. We just get the trade. Okay, so a couple things here that we're missing is, I would say the first one is just a minimap awareness. If you look at minimap here, as you're coming out of the smoke, your eyes should be on the minimap the entire time until you throw this blind and you're going into the fight. So we should be able to grab this info here. All of sight is clear aside from default box. So flashing out immediately, clearing default box would be what you want to do here. This corner is actually clear based on your Teo and breach earlier. You just have to clear sight box here. When you come back out, you know that that's clear. Before you come back out to long, you need to check minimap to figure out where he is because you have time. So in this case here, it looks like there's the little red question mark. So as you come around this corner, the preem should be for that. It's still kind of scaling around here, which is at least not deep, but that's kind of what you'd want to preem for. And then the actual gunfight, you notice how it's an adjustment up. Our crosshair placement never went back from here to adjust for the preem up here until you saw the target. So again, kind of going back to the importance of the setup there. You do get the kill. What we do notice again with this fight is going to be the initial burst into another quick burst. You definitely can get away with doing that. It just means that you don't have as much time to aim. So I think we talked about this in one of the weeks where we're talking about like big boy strafes a little bit.
Yeah.
But like you take your first shot and then strafe and go wide again. That's, to be honest, not really realistic for a lot of players, but it's a good cadence to build up initially. But if you were to do this, you would try and do this cadence, but you would try and actually adjust your second burst onto the target, which you may be doing here. I just want to reemphasize it here. But more importantly, grab minimap info, and then you could preem and try to get the kill on that guy. Ooh, we're actually starting A. This is really good. Playing these early fights is a bit nuanced, but looks like we're just taking the fight here. Okay, so this is a common angle, so if he were to swing us, it's honestly a really hard fight to win. Generally, when you take the A fight, I'll just show, is as a Reyna or a Jet, you tend to take most of your fights off barrier by going wide to an off angle and not playing the common angle. So if this is the common angle here, or if this is the common angle here, most Reynas, when they take the fight, will probably go this wide. Now, this is obviously a bit more scary because if they flash, or even if you don't get the kill and you get jiggled out, you're a bit further away from cover and you won't be able to fall back. So that's kind of the caveat here. If I'm playing Jet, I will still go this wide, but then you can just tuck and use the smoke here. As a Reyna, if you take this fight here and tuck, you might be able to flash and go for the rekill, or the reswing, which is probably what I would advise here, but it is a bit higher risk. So if you're kind of risk averse and you don't want to try that at the start, you could try to go on this angle at least. But generally, if you hold a common angle, you don't want to hold it standing still. So given that this is a common angle, I might back up and I might AD it instead. If you're kind of risk averse, but you could also do that here and just AD. Now it is a common angle, and you might just like, they might have good pre-aim for you, but because you're ADing, you're hoping that they miss, and then that gives you enough time to strafe and get your shot in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But that's how you might want to take this fight instead of walking up here, just because of the flashes. But let's see, they do reflash. And we follow the young breach here. Okay, so it's good movement. Definitely good movement. Okay, definitely a nice try. I would say the actual like fights look fine. Just want to look at the timing. So going on this refight here, I guess we don't know that. Oh no, we do know. So this is the blind. You killed the Phoenix ult. The player we killed here was the Reyna. So when you tuck back into cover, you should assume another swing. This is where you might want to tuck and use another flash. Or you try and play a different angle. So notice how this kill happened on this angle here. Just like how you reposition on the A bomb site, you kind of don't want to take the same angle here because they're going to be ready for that. You might take like an angle slightly to the right, like slightly off-centered. So that's important here. But you kind of just swung back into it. So visually what that might look like is, boom, you get this fight, and then you would tuck here and you take this fight, and then you slowly kind of piece it out until you flash, and then you can go wide again. It's hard to like reclaim space unless you use util or you have like a really good timing with a good peak. So typically you take your fight, you tuck, you take another fight here, and then you kind of just like tuck back in until you use your flash. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't like tuck and then reswing. That's kind of where you start going for jiggle pre-fires, because you're trying to catch them as they're chasing you, basically. I don't know if that made any sense.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely throwing a lot at you. Given that I am throwing a lot at you and it was just defense, I think it might just be better to focus on defense for this week specifically. starting in different positions, and then of course the mechanical piece on the pre-aiming first. So for recall purposes, I know we covered a lot on defense. What kind of stood out to you? And I want you to try and piece it into your own words. And I'll try and help you if you, I'll try and fill in the details.
Okay, so like my main takeaways, I think, don't start, or like maybe don't focus too much on being the fill starting position. And then as we discussed with the 80-20, maybe better to start in the middle, gather some information from the first couple rounds and see if there's a pattern of where we end up rotating, and we can kind of make our decisions from there. Also, I need to really practice looking at the minimap. I'm going to be honest, I don't look at it all too often. Well, first of all, because I don't know what I'm looking for. It really helped for you to break down, like to look at the cones, and it's hard for me to time it right so that I catch like when the enemy is there. So not sure how to fix that, but yeah, something to keep in mind. During our session today, you mentioned when I have like the leer out and I'm rotating, good time to look at it and try to figure out, or like use it to figure out where I want to be, or dedicate where I want. Wait, I don't remember how you phrased it.
Yeah, like pick the angle, I guess, pre-aim it. Yeah. Steady peeking is another way to think of it.
Yeah, and more playing off of my teammates, or like using them as information too. But I think that comes with the minimap awareness, which I am
for sure,
completely oblivious to.
It's not easy, I'm gonna be honest. I thankfully had the skill translated from when I played League of Legends. So like, League of Legends was like my first competitive game that I was grinding in middle school. And in that game, if you don't look at the minimap, you just die. So that feedback isn't as intentional in this game, and minimap awareness is typically seen as a secondary skill compared to the shooting, which it is. But yeah, it's definitely a skill. Some cues that I like to use to look at the minimap, which I can't really show here that well, but if a kill feed happens on the top right hand on my screen, my eyes instinctively dart to the left instead of the right, and then I just look at what the kill happened on. Well, I guess I'm looking at this, but where the kill was on the left side of the minimap. So like kill feed happens here, I don't look at the right to see who died or whatever. I just look here and then I get that info from the minimap. So that's one timing to look at the minimap. The other timing to look at the minimap is in checkpoints. So when the bomb is down, that's one. Like if you're on attack, you look at the minimap. You could also just look at the minimap when you're reloading. So when your gun's not out, or when you're using util. I almost always use my flash off of what I see on the minimap anyways, so it kind of goes hand in hand. Even if this sounds kind of weird to say, but even if I'm on attack and I'm flashing A long, my eyes are actually on the minimap here, because I'm trying to, like, you see that little red dot on the minimap? That's like, I'm looking at the minimap to figure out where that flash is landing, so I know exactly what angles it's covering. So like if I flash here, it's probably not going to get the bricks line. That's messing up. It's not going to get the bricks line as well, like the deeper one, unless I positioned my flash. I can't tab back into the game for some reason. My Epic Pen's freaking out. Let me delete this. Go here. Okay. So if I flash here, it's not going to get this bricks line here. So if I wanted to fight that bricks line, I might actually move my flash here, right? Like that's all that stuff I'm thinking about when I look at the minimap with just a flash. So there's a lot you can get from the minimap. There's a ton. And I almost always am looking at the minimap if I'm using util. Even if I'm like playing Raze and I pull out my nade here, I'm going to check the minimap really quickly to see the vision codes of my teammates behind me, probably. You know, it's just like quick glance. It's not an easy skill to develop by any means, but it is definitely one of the more important ones.
I wonder, since there is so much like that you can gain from it, maybe that's like overwhelming me, so I don't look at it at all. If we just like pick one thing for me to focus on when I look at the minimap, like what do you think would be the most beneficial to just focus on?
Great question.
Or something?
I think the biggest thing is going to be where your teammates are, and their vision cones. Like if you can figure out where your teammates are in their vision cones, playing off of them will come after that. But as long as you can kind of see where they are, it just gives you an idea of like what to expect when you rotate in. So that is a good actionable. I like that. I'll
try my best. I wonder if it would also help me to do the caps lock, to have it show it like in the middle of my screen, and then I don't have to worry about readjusting my vision when I'm looking back from the minimap.
I see. I could see that.
Well,
I've
you
never
mentioned the other player did
yeah,
that, and
the
it was
rank
kind
1
of
player.
weird, but I'm like, maybe that would be helpful. I don't know.
I do see, like, let's say you're coming up here. I mean, I don't use the caps lock, but I wonder if that's what he does. Like, you can just like let it go. I hit M with my thumb, but that's really far.
Yeah, I didn't know that it was M also. I just accidentally hit it once, and I was like, oh, it's caps lock. Okay.
Yeah, maybe caps lock actually makes more sense. You can be here, caps lock real quick, and then, I mean, I see the logic. Maybe that's why they have it there. It's like really quick. Like, I'm coming up here, I check minimap real quick. And then you never have to look top right. I mean, top left. I mean, you might be onto something. I would never do this because I don't have the muscle memory for that. Like, I haven't trained that, but...
Well, at the moment, I don't have the muscle memory for my eyes to look that way, so it's... Yeah, I guess it's just like pick one
yeah,
person.
Yeah. Both are good, I think, as long as you pick up the habit at some point, look at minimap. At least with this one, it's very clear on when you're looking at minimap. So, you know, you can see it a bit easier on review. The downside is that it just takes your mouse off of the, like you can't shoot. So that is the downside, but I guess if you're looking at minimap anyways, you're not expecting to shoot. So yeah, I'm not sure, but I'd say give it a go. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. Yeah. But yeah, that is definitely the biggest one if you're doing the minimap stuff. So I guess to kind of summarize, maybe I'll move this. The big thing to focus on for defense this week, or just in general, but why is it going like that?
Oh, can I say my third
Go for it. Yes.
Which was to slow down to reposition my crosshair and do my aim properly, especially when I'm rushing.
Good to have proper pre-aim. Yeah. This happens after flashing or dismissing, mostly. Okay, that's good. So let's see, we have a couple things here. Minimap awareness, 1. Then I'll move this down here. Maybe I'll paste it like this. We have this. And then we have the 80-20 on defense. Starting in the middle of the map and fast rotating generally. Okay, so these are the biggest ones. I guess these are the takeaways, I guess. If I just section them down here. If you were to prioritize the main one for this week, which one speaks out to you? Like if you were to put like a 1, 2, 3 on these.
Maybe the defense for 1, and then 2 for slowdown. 3, I would deprioritize just because it's like a lot to add on a completely new thing, and these are things that I can build off of what I have been working on. So
that makes sense to me. We'll just do underline, bolded, italicized for that. I think that's fine. Yeah, okay. I'm trying to think. I don't really have anything else. I think that's good. I think those are really good things to work on for this week. It's definitely a different lens to look at the game because I know you've been working on mechanics for a while now. So maybe it's it'll be useful 100%. And it may just be one of those things like I was saying at the start, like you kind of have to have like a little bit of everything before you need all the pieces of the puzzle before it kind of comes together. So some people develop that after X amount of time, but yeah, I think this is a good direction. I'm pretty happy with this.
Nice.
Do you have any questions or comments before I let you go?
I just want to say hopefully I'm out of the lost streak trenches because that was really,
Fingers
really
crossed.
demotivating. But yesterday felt really good. But I did tell you, and I didn't really tell chat, but I was only doing Guardian for the last like 3 games, and we ended up winning. So I was like, okay, is this coincidence or is this like actually something that I should work toward? But I think sticking with our main plan is probably for the better.
Yeah, it also kind of makes sense given what we saw today with how you're like trying to control the burst. You're probably not doing that with the Guardian because like each shot is individual. So you are able to kind of get that hit confirmation a bit more cleanly. But that's probably, I would guess, why the Guardian might be working a bit more. But yeah, the mental when you get on a loss streak is pain. It's definitely pain. And then when you get on a win streak, it's like you're unbeatable. It's very humbling. It's very humbling.
For sure.
Yeah. So you gotta somehow detach from the results, but it's easier said than done. That only happened for me in like the last week when I was climbing back to Radiant, and I think that was probably one of the reasons why I was able to get back to Radiant. Like I went on like a 4 wins, 1 loss, and it didn't really change my mental. While I'd go like 1 win, 4 losses, also didn't change my mental. But that only happened in that last week. Like all the weeks before that, it was just like, I hate life. I'd go 4-0 on the day. I'm like, oh yeah, my day is great. And then I go 0-4 and it's like, I don't want to stream tomorrow.
Well, I feel like it was kind of the opposite for me because when I felt like when I didn't really know what was going on and I was making mistakes, it's a lot easier to forgive yourself and be like, oh, it's just a game. Like, it's just for fun. But like now that we've been doing coaching for a while, I'm like, I should be better than this. Like it started really getting to me. But yeah, the ego boost from yesterday was actually really helpful, helping me move forward. So
definitely understandable. The pressure from coaching definitely it's normal. I think with every single client I've worked with, it's kind of like, oh, I'm taking it more seriously now. I should be getting more results. So I definitely understand. Understand. But it's one of those things you can't rush sometimes.
You stopped 1 game away from Radiant?
Yeah, I was at 440 RR or something, and then I was like, I hit my game limit, like cap for the day. I'm like, I'm not gonna play again, so I'm gonna wait until tomorrow to get the rank up game. So that's kind of what I meant in that last week. I just wasn't playing.
What's your general cap for games?
Oh, during that grind period, I was playing, I think, like 5 to 6 games in that block. But for most people, I recommend to play 3 to 5 in a sitting. Like one sitting, you play 3 to 5.
Okay.
Obviously, like, kind of go with leeway. Some people like to use the idea of like playing a best of 3. So like if you win 2, you stop. Or if you lose 2, you stop. Some people like to play a best of 5 in one sitting. So if you win 3 in a row, you stop playing, or, whatever. You could, if you win the first 2 and lose the next 2, you could still play a 5th game. But I don't know, that some people like that framing. I kind of just went with the actual game count and not the BO3 or the BO5, but that could be one way to do it as well.
Yeah. We'll see. I should play 8 games a day.
Well, if you're going to do all that, I'd probably separate into 2 different settings, but whatever works for you. I've definitely done the sit down and play 16 games a day in a row before, but
it just sounds really stressful.
It does. It is.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank
hopefully,
you so much for your time.
No, likewise. And hopefully it wasn't too overwhelming, but
that's what the VOD's for. I'll just rewatch it.
True. Alrighty. Well, we'll check back in next week, and good luck on the grind this week.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Of course. You take care.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
Oh. Alrighty. Oh, how are we feeling, chat? Am I still on the call? I never know, because we have like a couple different things open, so I never know if I'm fully out or not. But wow, we ended a little early today. I still have my meeting in 15 minutes. Yes, thank you, coach. Thank you, Dopie. Before my meeting, I do have some of the last birthday presents to open, and very on theme, so I'm excited about that. Okay, first, Okay. First we have this gift from Viet and Brad Buck, and Brad said, "Happy early birthday, although now it's kind of a late birthday present. Hope you had fun on your trip, and I'm really looking forward to the stream coming back." So thank you so much, Brad and Viet. This is the Stray, what do you call this? Computer, like keyboard mousepad? This is for my setup over there. Thanks for the raid, Dope Pie. Yeah, new pad.
Dope TV raid with 28 viewers.
Super excited about this. Thank you so much. We have some on-theme gifts as well. Valorant-themed gifts. This one is from Anonymous and Dre. It says, "Happy birthday. Hope it's a good one of many more to come." Oh my god. Is this one Thrash? Actually don't know the names of all of Gecko's buddies because I don't have Gecko unlocked yet. But I think this one is his ultimate. It's really big. It's so cute though. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And to go along with it, we have the 3 others as well. Let's see if I get their names right. These 3 are from Gravy Ladle. So thank you, Gravy Ladle. I appreciate it. I think this one's Mosh Pit. So cute. And this one is Wingman. This one's wrapped up. So cute. And I'll have to find space to put them so that we can see them in the streams. Maybe maybe they can sit in my chair. And then what is this one? What is this one's name? I forget. I feel like I just saw it though. But thank you so much, Gravy Ladle, for the 3 little guys. Thank you. Oh my god. Now we have so much. Thank you, Dre, for the ultimate. Oh, Dizzy, you're so right. It is Dizzy. Dizzy's up top. That's what they're so cute. The whole gang's here. I don't know where we're... But I will figure it out after my work meeting. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much, everybody. I think that's all of the birthday gifts that we've opened. Even though it took a while for them to get here. But yeah, put them on the keyboard. Honestly, we could just line them up. We could just line them up right there alongside the octopus and the Pusheen. So cute. So cute. I'm so happy. Thank you so much. Let's see. Was there anything else I wanted to talk about before we head off? I'm like hesitant to write down topics for Mondays because I don't know. I never know how long stream is gonna be. Ugh. But this past week I was working a lot on the Valorant API so that I can have this message and I can have, let's see, what other ones do I have? It does have a little cache manager, so when it's outside of the TTL, then it takes a second to pull up the results, but now it keeps tabs on my rank, my RR from my rank, which was really obnoxious when I was bronze 1 0 RR, peaked bronze 3. I have it set to the Paris time zone, so today I've played 0 games. I'll play after work, but my win-loss, what else did I add to it? I don't remember. Just spend a lot of time like optimizing code that no one is ever gonna read. I don't know why I do that. Procrastination probably, but it's fun anyway. 2 more games until B2. That's what I said when I was in bronze 3, and then we ranked all the way down to bronze 1. So I'm not gonna jinx it, but we did win 3 games yesterday. So, oh, and we played with Green Room. Like, basically I was playing Valorant all day yesterday. We played a bunch of different modes as well. A couple of them I hadn't played before. I don't remember what they're called. Let's see. I have Valorant open right now. We played Spike Rush, and I have played Escalation before on stream. But yeah, we played Swift Play. We did really well. It was a small team of us 4, but it was really fun. Jinx, say that again. Oh, you're right. Also, on Wednesday, we have the Jinx cosplay stream. Finally, I feel like we've been talking about this for such a long time, but we met the bid goal. So I have the entire cosplay ready to go. We'll do that on Wednesday, and then afterward play a little bit of League. Although I don't remember anything about League, so I've been too Valorant filled lately. We'll see how it goes. And then on Saturday, we just have the finale of our Cyberpunk series. Although I say finale, but like I want to do some of the other options, like some of the other endings. And I don't know if we want to dedicate stream time to that or if I'll just do that on my own. I'm not sure. But we're pretty sure we're gonna finish it. So I'll also do it in the Lucy cosplay. That's why we're saying cosplay week in the chat. Exciting, exciting stuff. I don't even know. I don't even know what comes next. I think we had some ideas, but now I'm kind of leaning toward, well, I don't want to say anything. We'll talk about it after Cyberpunk. But yeah, lots of updates. How about you, chat? What a nice KJ cosplay, by the way. I was thinking about it, but it's like so hot. I'm like, you can probably tell I'm sweating. I'm like a little glossy today because it's really hot. I thought that we had a heat wave a couple weeks ago, but like maybe it's come back or maybe this is just the new normal. So I'm just in a t-shirt and some shorts right now. No Killjoy cosplay, unfortunately. What does the shirt say? It says, "I am so pretty." It's Lil Yachty merch. From Let's Start Here. But it was the only one that I thought was cute when I saw him in concert. Anyway, I have to go get ready for my meeting in 5 minutes. Hopefully everything was touched on. Hope to see you on Wednesday for the Jinx cosplay stream and League. I was intending on only opening it up to Green Room, so if you're not subscribed, Green Room is the Discord channel that is open to only Twitch subscribers. Everyone else can access the rest of the Discord, based on your vibes level. But considering we only had a couple people show up for Valorant, maybe we might have to open it up for the rest of whoever on Twitch wants to play as well. Whoever is available, especially since it's a weekday. And a lot of people are work blocked, so I don't know, we'll figure it out. It'll be a lot of fun. I hope to see you there. And yeah, I think that's everything from me. Hope you're having a good morning, evening, night, whatever it is, wherever you are. I hope you have a good one. Let's see who's online. We can not end so rushed. We can go say hi to Reedlock. It's been a while. Coach number 3, just kidding. Coach number 4, just kidding. So yeah, say hi for me. Okay. And I will see you later. Alright, bye. Bye, 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 bye. Hold on. Bye, 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 bye.
Before I changed, started acting strange, had my life in my own hands. Meanwhile, I was wasting time, thinking things were fine, but you had other plans. Behind your weak disguise, all the worthless lies, I was wrong and now I know. Don't think that I won't try, this is not goodbye.
Burayı sarsın. Duvar atacağım. Duvarı kıran alsam.
life, I've been pushed around, always lost, not found, but I didn't realize. Like a giant standing in my way, leading me astray. Now it's time for me to rise. I knew I had to find myself. Turns out I'm on my own. I won't let it go. The right and wrong that you pretend to know. The fire in my heart burns in your shadow. The silver lining began to rust, and now I get who I can and cannot trust.